Do you have people in your life that you wonder if you've traveled with them before? Is this the first time that you've met? Or have you met before? Do you get a feeling with some people in your life, friends and family, that this connection just goes beyond this lifetime? This is for you. One of the things that I have discovered is a profound understanding about past lives and past lives connections and how they play out in our life. And as I have been elevating spiritually and had a lot more access to the full range of my hidden or higher senses, I am becoming more and more and more aware of these type of things. I have been able to access this kind of information that pertains to me understanding the friends and the family and the community that I have around me and the relationships that I had in the past. So, you will have some friendships and you'll be like, oh my God, it's just like so effortless. Like, there's something about the connection where it doesn't require much work to sustain itself. Not saying that there's still not work required, as there is in all relationships, but there's not this resistance, there's not as much struggle. Like you're able to, and not talking about love relationships here, this can be the case as well. But more thinking about friendships, platonic friendships, or even some relationships with some of your family members, and it just feels easy. It just feels like something you don't have to think about. What I'm understanding is those types of relationships in my life are with people who I have traveled with before. So this is not our first lifetime together. We have done sometimes many lifetimes, and in those times, and sometimes not always many, but even like if it's at least one, it seems to make a difference. It's like we have had a chance to work through the kinks. We're familiar with each other. There's some profound sort of understanding that doesn't require thought and conversation and experience in this life to get. You just know it. And so there are things that you're working on in this lifetime for sure. And there's, in each lifetime, you're continuing the work that you did from the previous. So you're moving up to the next level of what you guys have come to do in this life. And all of that stuff will be playing out. But there's just something different about it. There's just like an underlying kind of ease. And so I have noticed that in a number of my connections with my friends. And now I am able to access that information on my past lifetimes. I know that these are people that I have traveled with before. Now, the other thing that I'm understanding is the relationships where there has been a little bit more of a challenge. Now, this is not universal to all of them, but there's a distinctive pattern of relationships. What I'm seeing is that there's some relationships where there has been a lot of conflict, misunderstanding, challenges, and just, like difficulty, immense difficulty. That's the best way I can put it. Or especially such situations where it's like you've been accused of things that are not you, or you are the person who is accusing or perceiving this other person in this particular way that doesn't actually match their soul imprint or who they are. I'm noticing in these type of configurations, these are people who we're just being introduced to in this lifetime. So it is a new soul relationship. Not saying that they're a new soul, but this is the first time that you have had to walk alongside this soul and work with this soul this lifetime. So because you don't know each other, there's a lot more work that it takes, a lot more understanding, and a lot more things that come into play in you guys doing this introduction, shall we say. Now, there are some of us who have been incarnated into families where there are a lot of family members who are new souls to us. There are some of us who are born into families where we feel like foreigners. In this kind of distinct configuration, you'll remember from childhood, usually not feeling this immense connection with your siblings, your parents, your cousins, your grandparents, whoever. There's a disconnect, and when there's a multiple amount of them, it can feel kind of a bit alienating. This, I am understanding, is a lot to do with them not being part of your soul family. They're new souls to you. You don't know them and they don't know you. And that can create sometimes a cold atmosphere, especially if a large amount of numbers of those particular family members are soulmates. Like, they have been traveling together, they have worked out their kinks, and so they're able to just sort of have this kind of glue, this effortless, this connection that you don't have. It can feel kind of alienating. And then you'll also have those family members who you have been traveling with. And what I'm noticing in my own family, the ones who I am soulmates with, who I have been traveling with, have sort of stayed around them. It's like we just sort of orbit each other. We're just always in each other's lives. Um, my mother is one of my soulmates. She's part of my soul family. I lived with her for most of my life. I just needed to be with her. We've been doing this for a very long time. We chose to come back again in this lifetime, and her be my mom and me be the daughter, to continue our experience here. We're from the same place. She also has that connection with her mother. You'll see the difference with family members that you have that soul connection with. It will feel easy, it will feel comfortable, it will feel. Now, let me be careful when I say easy, because I'm not saying that you won't have any problems. You're still working on things. There's still things that are going to come up. You still have all of the things that are taking place in your family, in your bloodline, in your environment, all of these things that you're working. So just like in any relationship, you're still going to have things. No one's saying that there's not things that won't take place, but there's a way that you guys are able to keep coming back together, and working through things in a way which sort of just shows that there is this kind of, already there's this understanding. There's like this underlying understanding that helps you work through those things in a particular way without looking at each other kind of like, who are you? You'll also notice this in your friendships. So I have come to understand that a lot of my best friendships, the ones that have survived the longest, that are just like, they're lifelong, they're either lifelong, either I knew them when I was a lot younger, or they came into my life at some point and they've just been consistent ever since. These are ones that I have traveled with before. One of the key notes that I'm seeing with those type is, again, the same pattern of just sort of ease and effortlessness. And again, not saying that there's not any challenges, but not that many. And to be honest, a lot less than the ones that are family members who are also soulmates. Because with family, you have some different things that sort of coming that you're working through. But friends, it's like you pick them. You know what I mean? So it's a bit different. I find I find there's not as much challenges with my friends who are my soulmates, who I've been traveling with. We don't actually argue that much, and this is what I'm finding in mine. I'm not saying that doesn't happen or wouldn't happen, or that I've never had that with them, because I have, but not a lot. Doesn't happen a lot, and if it does, we are able to work through it and get back online. It's just not that much of a huge challenge. And that's because there's just this, like I said, we've worked out the kinks in previous lifetimes, and we just kind of get each other on a soul level. So working through things is it's just not as challenging. And then I have friendships who are with new souls, new soul connections. And I've noticed the difference in those friendships. My first thing that I would say is, when I have gone through immense challenges in my life and immense change, some of those have fallen off. You're relying on your perception. And as we know in this world, because there's so much programming that's been taking place, are sometimes our perceptions are a bit off because they're not always coming from our intuition. It's coming from a number of other different factors in our mind. And so if our perceptions is off, then at times when you're viewing people, you can be viewing their actions and the reasons why they're doing things from the wrong lens, and you'll be thinking that it's fact, or you'll be thinking that that's your intuition, and then that changes the way that you perceive a person, and it changes the way that you relate to somebody. And this is just a common issue just in human interaction. I feel like we've all been guilty and victim of it. There are loads of people out there right now that view you in a lens which is really not a good reflection of your soul imprint. They've completely missed the mark. And when they leave this lifetime and they get to do their life review, they're going to be like, oh, I didn't see that. Unless they do the work in this lifetime and they get to see it. Maybe they have to do that, maybe they don't. Depends on the connection and why. The danger with that is when that takes place in groups. And for any of us who have been unfortunate enough to experience that in our blood family, or any kind of group, friendship groups or circles around us, workplace circles, anything like that, where there are a large amount of people that congregate with a false perception about who you are and are projecting things onto you, because yeah, that can be a whole thing. Another one of the things that I have learned in understanding this stuff is about ancestral connection. This is something that I learned because I have a family member who is on my father's side who I didn't grow up with. And so in that relationship, I'm learning, and we're not soulmates, it's a new introduction, but we have gone through a lot of challenges and working through the kinks in order to maintain the relationship we have now and get it to where it is. And I'm learning that a lot of that glue is ancestral. The connection that we have is really ancestral. And even though you can be in a family with people who you don't have a previous soul introduction with, you can also connect just through the bloodline, just through the DNA, the common ancestry. Sometimes you can still have this nice connection sort of based on that ancestral glue, so to speak. I'm learning that when that sort of doesn't seem to work out is in times when, and this is just my perception of it, I feel it's to do with that kind of DNA selection. And because, you know, when we come into bloodline and families, your DNA is, you select what you want and from where, and you're going from a large pool of ancestry, right, on both your matrilineal and patrilineal side. And so I may have selected a lot of blood and DNA that's coming from a line of my family who are descending from a particular region, shall we say. And when we trace back, it goes back to, you know, these particular set of people on the continent and so forth. And let's say that I have accumulated a large amount of that DNA, and that's in my predominant makeup. So those ancestors, that ancestry is very online for me in this lifetime, because I'm like pulling from that in my physical body, in this avatar, right? The other family members that could be in my family that I don't have a previous soul connection with may have a different DNA selection, especially if you're not siblings with the same parents. Because obviously if you're siblings with the same parents, you're going to have a lot more closeness in terms of your DNA selection. It's still going to be different, but the pool that you're picking from is getting a lot closer. Whereas with a cousin, for example, an aunt, an uncle, you know, second, third, fourth cousins, like the further that you're getting away, and they've got whole different lines of DNA that are coming through from different ancestral strands, because one of their common parents is not related to you. You know what I mean? So what I'm noticing is in those circumstances, yeah, it differs a little, because if our makeups and we're not coming from the same sort of, you know what I mean, like clusters, then there's not a soul connection, and then there's also not an ancestral connection. So it feels even a little bit more foreign. And so I'm noticing commonalities with family members who we maybe don't have a soul connection, but we have a strong ancestral connection. And maybe the ancestry that we're working with in this lifetime, or the pool that we're pulling from, is quite strong, and that also becomes somewhat of a glue. And lastly, I want to talk about those soul connections that you have where you have traveled together, but there is trauma, drama, some kind of corruption or something crazy that happened between you guys. That one is a whole nother ball game. And what I'm noticing in that one, because I do have a family member who I have that with, where in a previous lifetime he was horrible to me, horrible, and did horrific things, and some of them I'm not even fully uncovering in this lifetime, because my guides are showing me if I get too into that story, it will affect this story because I'm gonna remember too much, and I'll be like, so you remember when you did? Yeah, so so I've kind of stayed clear of it. But understanding that he did me wrong in this previous lifetime really has helped me understand what's happened in our relationship, because there's this familiarity that I get with soul connection, where, like I said, that effortless, that ease, that okay, you just kind of like understand each other, that's there. But then there's also this, I don't like you, something about you, like there's this tension, there's this, you know what I mean, and this need to feel like I need to protect myself. I need to watch out, like don't let myself get too close, like so there's all of this kind of stuff that's playing out in the background. And so I've noticed that my entire life, and I always kind of felt like there's something with this one, and there's something, but I don't know what it is. And so when I started to understand that in our lifetime, that he did me wrong, I said, oh, it is making all the sense. So yeah, I say all of this to say, understanding your past lifetimes with people is a really fascinating journey once you start getting into it, and it really helps you understand what's playing out in your relationships, why, and why you're having the experience that you're having. And especially if you, once you have this knowledge, once you have this understanding, it really does change the way that you relate to people, and the way that you perceive, and the way that you behave with people. Because especially if you're one of those that is having a strong perception of someone which is not accurate, it's just because you don't know each other, and so you're getting to know each other, you know. It's so easy when you don't know someone and it's a new soul, and you see certain behaviors and certain ways that they're doing, and you're just like, that means this plus this means this, so you must be this type of person. Or it's so easy to get things so wrong and just be running with it. Our mind is a dangerous place. It can create these storylines, and if you're stuck in your mind, then you're just running these tracks. It can really lead you in the wrong direction sometimes, or cause you to create situations that are just not necessary. Another thing that I'm also seeing is when you have incarnated into your bloodline with a soulmate, and you've done this before, it's usually because you've got some very serious work to do. I mean, it's not usually, it is because you have some serious work to do. You guys have made an agreement. There's things that you're doing. You want to help each other accomplish the things that you've come to accomplish, and together, because your blood family is the closest to you in this lifetime. So yeah, it's quite serious work. And what I'm understanding is, when you have those type of relationships where you're both family members and your soulmates, and then something happens to cause you to rift or to split, it will have a profound effect on both of your lives. It's never going to quite feel right. It's easy to overlook the aspect of it if you don't understand your soul connections, because if you're dealing with someone who you don't have a previous soul relationship with, and there's no important assignment that you guys agreed to in this life, then that's easy. You know what I mean? You can turn your back and you can move away, whether they're family members, friends, doesn't matter. If it's someone you've been traveling with, and before you got here, you guys sat down and was like, right, so I'm gonna need you to help me with this, you're gonna help me with that, keep each other on point, you know what I'm saying, and do X, Y, and Z, you know what I mean, work at this through the bloodline, and then you guys decide to split. Yeah, that has a grave effects on your work, your journey, your life, your connection. It's never gonna feel right. It's never gonna feel right. And you've both got free will, so you have the choice to do that. You have the choice to do that, to not do the work, to not find out what it is that needed to be resolved and get back online and do what you need to do. You have the choice to do that. But you will feel it if you don't. You will feel it. And that doesn't mean that you can't continue in this life without them, or you're not going to be able to ace your goals. Of course you can. You know what I mean? But sometimes some certain people are going to add a significant layer to the work that you've come to do, and that layer could be affecting loads of people. There could be loads of people who are going to be affected by that work that you guys have come to do and you have decided not to do. So this is something to really pay attention with. I have seen it a lot I've seen it in my family, particularly between two elders who had a rift and didn't connect for, I don't know if it was over a decade or 2 decades, and then they came back together again. They have a soul connection, and those decades apart were not helpful to either of them, and the both of them were being extremely stubborn, and it took certain things to sort of move out the way to get them, certain serious events in lives to get them back online again. And when they come back online, even though they're not understanding the conversation consciously in terms of, oh my God, you're actually part of my soul family. Like, why? Even though they're not understanding it that way, they are in some aspects, because they thought, oh, why? So, I say all that to implore you to just pay a bit more attention to those type of things when they happen. There's going to be times when it feels completely correct. It feels like this person is not supposed to be in my life. They're not adding anything. They're subtracting. That energy needs to move. And then there's other times where that's actually not the case. There's just some work that needs to be done, and neither of you are willing to do the work. So here we are. Becoming aware of these things is a power tool. And yeah, for those of you who are on this journey, I implore you to look into that and to pay more attention to who you have around and why, and how you feel when you meet new people. Are you meeting a soulmate, or are you meeting a new soul to you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments.